Welcome to the next installment of my video lecture series in microeconomics. And in this particular video lecture, I'm going to be taking a look at a Cournot duopoly in particular, giving you a numeric example and showing you the steps that you need to take in answering a problem similar to this. So for example, if you have a Cournot duopoly where each firm faces marginal cost of $20 and the market demand is Q is equal to 100 minus 0.5p. What are the best response functions of both firms? What is the best output level for each? And how does the total output level and price? Realize that we're not going to be really doing price in here. Just realize that you just need to put the quantities back into the inverse demand function, which you calculated as part of this answer. And what are the cartel and perfectly competitive output levels in this particular marketplace. So you have to calculate the inverse demand function. So you just take the market demand function and solve for P. So you end up with P is equal to 200 minus 2Q. To determine the residual demand, remember that the market quantity is just the summation of the individual two firms. This is a duopoly, so there's only two firms. So the residual demand, you just have Q is equal to Q1 plus Q2, and you multiply through with that 2. So you end up with P is equal to 200 minus 2Q sub 1 minus 2Q sub 2. So we want to find the marginal revenue curves for each firm. So we take that residual, the inverse demand function and the residual demand function. And since it's linear, all we need to do is double the coefficient in front of the quantity. For example, if we're doing this for firm 1, we just double the coefficient in front of Q sub 1. So here in the residual demand function, it's 2. For marginal revenue, it is just double that 4. So marginal revenue for firm 1 is equal to 200 minus 4Q sub 1 minus 2Q sub 2. We solve for, getting ahead of myself there. Now we set marginal revenue equal to marginal cost, which is equal to 20, and we solve for Q1. So we have Q1 is equal to 45 minus 0.5 Q sub 2. We do the same exact thing for firm 2. Here you can see the coefficient in front of Q2 is doubled to 4. So we end up with marginal revenue is equal to 200 minus 2Q sub 1 minus 4Q sub 2. Again, we set that marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So we have 20 is equal to 200 minus 2Q sub 1 minus 4Q sub 2. We solve for Q sub 2 and we get Q sub 2 is equal to 45 minus 0.5 Q sub 1. So we have the best response functions for each of these firms. All right. And in order to find out what their best quantities are, we just stick the respective other firm's best response function into the other firm's function. So if we're looking for firm 1's best response, we place firm 2's best response into firm 1's best response. We do that there and we solve for Q sub 1, and Q sub 1 is equal to 30. And we do the same for firm 2. We place the best response function into firm 1 into firm 2, and we solve for Q2, and we get the quantities here. Remember that tells us the quantities for each firm. Q1 is 30, Q2 is equal to 30, so the market quantity is equal to 60. It's just Q sub 1 plus Q sub 2. Now we want to find out what the cartel level is, and that's just if they're acting as a monopoly. So what we do is we take the inverse demand function and take the derivative of that to give marginal revenue. Again, since it's a linear demand function, we only have to double the coefficient that's on Q. So we end up with marginal revenue is 200 minus 4Q. We set marginal cost equal to marginal revenue, so we get 20 equals 200 minus 4Q. And solving for Q gives us a quantity of 45. And if we want to find out what the perfectly competitive output level is, realize that in perfect competition, marginal cost is equal to price. So we can put marginal cost in here, substituting in for 20. So we get 20 is equal to 200 minus 2Q. And solving for Q, we get a quantity of 90.